Ah, and of course that made the fucking slideshow stop. Hey! How's it going? I'm not gonna upload this to YouTube, I think. Well, maybe I will, maybe I won't. I'm mostly making this for Facebook, but I guess I should probably put it on YouTube. I just recorded a Stardew Valley episode, and those are only like 10 minutes long, talking about this. And I kind of wanted to go on more about it. I guess I should provide a little context first. So I've been reading classics, Chinese classics, classic philosophers, 100 schools of thought, Warring States period, Confucianism, Taoism, Neo-Confucianism. What I've been reading, well, started reading tonight, was Moism by Moism. I really... Confucianism. Confucianism. I like it. It's very... There's some qualities of it, like filial piety and the importance of music and ritual that feel very alien to me. But not bad, just illogical and weird, and they don't fit with me. But I appreciate them, and they're interesting to learn about and read about. Taoism, I fucking love. I love the absurdity of it, the way that they try to explain kind of unexplainable and unknowable concepts by juxtaposing extremes and then saying these aren't extremes, they're the same thing, in the same way that developing a photo, a black and white photo, isn't just white, and it isn't just black, it's white and black and gray. It's all the things at once, and none of the things. Trying to pin down the idea of the way of things is really nebulous and interesting, and Lao Tzu I really fucking like for that reason. Oh my god, who wrote, oh god, it's another Taoist, Zhang, god, I should know this. I just finished reading, and, well, it's been a couple of weeks. Yeah, tell me about Taoism. God, I hate Wade Giles so much. It's Taoism. It's D-A-O, not T-A-O, but whatever. Yeah. Who's I reading? Zhuangzi. Yeah, Zhuangzi, unlike Lao Tzu, talks about Taoism in this really interesting poetic way, where instead of juxtaposing extremes and talking about things in very nebulous, ethereal, cerebral, existential terms, he instead talks in stories and parables and poems, and some of them are really quite beautiful. I'm sure much more beautiful in the original Chinese than the translations, but some of them hold up, even in English. So really enjoyed that. Mencius, I don't like. Neo-Confucianism, to me, so often is just parroting of Confucianism, just repeating what Confucius says, but saying it in a more pretentious, look at how smart and holier than thou I am kind of way. Mencius, Confucius, when he talks about himself, so often, allegedly, because these are very old stories, copied and recopied and added and removed and changed hundreds and hundreds of times, may or may not be real or not, but the character of Confucius, as we know him now, or Confucius, as we know him now, he's humble and even self-effacing at times. He talks about himself as if he's not a particularly remarkable person, just an exemplar of the values that he promotes and propagates. He just practices what he preaches, and anyone else can be a sage if they just do the same thing. Mencius, Munxe, on the other hand, is just kind of a dick about it. He criticizes everyone, anytime Confucius is mentioned, it's always a misunderstanding or misinterpretation of Confucius. It's like, oh, when Confucius said this, does it mean this? He's like, actually, no, what he meant with da-da-da-da-da. He's just an insufferable... I don't like him. Neo-Confucianism just seems like it's a circle jerk around Confucianism, which... I don't know, maybe I'm missing the point, but I've never really gotten it, and it's never really resonated with me. It's just always irritated me when I learned about it and studied it in college, and when I've gone back now and read more, it just still is, it's abrasive, which is weird. Mencius complains or chastises Moism a few times. I'm like, Moism? I do not remember Moism. Well, I don't remember Moism in Mohism because, God, I think it was a footnote in one lesson in 2 of my classes that I took on Chinese history. It was a footnote. At the time, in the Warring States period, though, it was competing with Confucianism as being one of the fundamental schools of thought, one of the primary schools of thought in the 100 schools of thought, and could have, in an alternate universe, timeline, have supplanted Confucianism as being the fundamental basis of Chinese philosophy moving forward. So that's pretty interesting, right? Like, okay, yeah, I want to read the other side. I want to read what they were arguing against or triumphing against. I want to see the other side of the coin. Like the short version of the drive of history and anthropology is to learn more and read more and just try to see the world through as many lenses as possible. And some of these lenses are easy and natural. When Lao Tzu is talking about how unknowable the Tao is, or how knowable the Tao is in this way and not this way and that way and not this way, it's kind of brain-breaking wrapping your mind around it at times, but I get it. And then when Confucius is talking about the importance of ritual, I just kind of roll my eyes, and I get it, but I don't. Moism, so far, and I'm only 50 pages in, I'm on chapter book 9 or 10, I haven't really been struck by it very much. Like, Moism popularized the notion of AI. God, I'd write the Chinese character, but I'm bad with characters. I meaning love, in the popularized conceptualization of it in English. Love, like compassion, universal affection and empathy and support. He writes about love in the context of, well, heaven has, capital H, heaven has this uncompromising love for everyone. And it's exactly the same. Everybody is given the same, is afforded roughly the same opportunity. And, you know, this isn't missing a lot of nuance of class and wealth and privilege, but it's an interesting premise. Everyone is afforded by heaven the same opportunity to be happy and healthy and all this. And if heaven loves everyone equally, if it puts everyone on the same planet, with the same access to the same resources, and again, this is missing some nuance, but it's an interesting premise, therefore, we should love everyone equally. Now, they don't mean, Mozi in this context isn't meaning we should all have massive polyamorous relationships and orgies all the time, that familial bonds mean nothing, and we should care as much about a stranger as we do our offspring or our parents. No. He's saying that we should care about strangers, and that the well-being of strangers should be important to us. Which just seems obvious, right? To me, it seems obvious. It seems so fundamental. It seems like common sense. Another thing he's writing about is, he doesn't use this word, but it's what we in the West would think of as meritocracy. The idea, and he's not alone in writing about this, Confucius wrote about this, lifting up and promoting those who are skilled, those who are talented, those who are good at their jobs. Lift them up, promote them, give them gifts, celebrate them, give them prestige. And if you do that, you'll encourage more people to exhibit those traits. And the kingdom or the realm will benefit because more people will aspire to be talented or good or qualified because you're rewarding them for it. Seems obvious, right? But it's interesting that they have to say it. These are renowned, fundamental philosophers who are called sages, or the sage, or the great sages. These are people who form the basis of philosophy for hundreds and thousands of years. The fact that they spend their time writing about this means that the alternative must have been something they had to contend with. And I have a very hard time imagining that. Like obviously, nepotism is a thing. Just giving positions and prestige and money to people who don't deserve it. I mean, look at our presidency, right? It still exists. But generally, popularly, in my culture, there's the notion, and to an extent it's a lie because we're a kleptocracy here, not a meritocracy, that if you are good, if you are qualified, if you are excellent, you will succeed, you will benefit, you will grow from it. It will be rewarded if you do good, right? I think Greek philosophers wrote about this a little bit, obviously, because meritocracy is a thing in the West. But it just never really clicked that, well, if they're writing about it, this had to be a revolutionary idea at some point, and that's so fucking weird. I can't imagine a world where anyone would disagree with the notion that, like, hey, Jim there is way better than Bob at growing crops. Maybe Jim should be in charge of agriculture instead of Bob. Yeah, no shit, right? Like, I can understand, maybe Bob comes from an influential or powerful family and you need that political tie. Yeah, that can muddy the water a little bit. Or, you know, you like Bob and you don't like Jim. You want Bob to do well, and this is a way that you can care for Bob or ensure Bob's security. That makes sense, especially in the context of Chinese culture. That makes sense, especially if you're related to Bob. Then, or if Bob's like your father or uncle or grandfather, then filial piety, you're trying to honor them and care for them and support them, and that makes sense. But generally it seems like this is an assumed thing in my framework. And I'm a decently trained historian and anthropologist. And I say this because the idea of getting out of your head and putting on different lenses, trying to see the world through different perspectives, is the entire fucking point of the schools of thought that I studied, and philosophy and science that I studied. And I'm still having a hard time with it, because it just seems obvious. So that got me thinking when I was making tea. Yeah, after I got home, I was making tea after I went running. Before I went running? Yeah, after I went running and took a shower. Is this right? Is it right? I don't fucking know. I was thinking about the idea of religion and philosophy and lenses and perspectives, and how do we get them? How do we choose them? How do we adopt them, right? Often, and this is mostly a rhetorical question, but I'd love to hear thoughts on this. Mostly, to me, it seems like we just get what's taught to us, right? The vast majority of people, I'm willing to bet, practice some derivative of the values that they were brought up believing. Makes sense. Some people, like me, have this ambition to learn more and grow more and explore different schools of thought, different religions, different philosophies, different whatever, and seek out new truths, different truths. And what I do is just kind of mishmash them all together and find pieces from different things that work together and make my own kind of stained glass out of it. Collage. I like stained glass more than collage. Sounds less jank. But reading Moism, I haven't really been finding much where I'm like, oh, interesting, or I can incorporate that. Yeah, a lot of my pursuit of studying different cultures and religions and philosophies and lenses is to grow, to improve myself, to develop into a better, and of course that's arbitrary and a value statement, a better human being. And largely I feel like it's been successful, and so, obviously I continue to do it, and I intend to. But normally, when I'd be reading something like Moism, and I'd be finding so many cases where I'm like, yep, that's right, yep, okay, yep, I know that, I'd be pretty unimpressed. And to be honest, my first impression of Moism has been underwhelmed. But maybe that's not a bad thing. Maybe that's what it feels like to find something that's a good fit for you. Like, you can stick with what you're taught. It's familiar, and even if it doesn't make complete sense to you, it's familiar, and it'll dictate your behavior, and you'll fit that mold. Or you break out of that mold and start building your own mold. You find things that encourage you to be better or different, or challenge you to grow in different ways. And that's mostly what I've been doing. And, that's this middle path. Personally, what for me that is Buddhism and Taoism are like way up there as far as motivators for me to continue personal growth, challenge myself to change. Those are big motivators. Then I find something like Moism that just fits. Like, I don't have to change in any way for this to fit. it's just what I'm doing. And so far, I'm not done reading Moism. It could go way off rails and just not be what feels like common sense anymore. Is that how you find an ideology? Is that because for me, finding an ideology has always been something that has challenged me and motivated me to grow or become a better person. Marxism, class theory, feminism have been strong motivators to question a lot of values and a lot of assumptions I've made about the world and change them and modify them and learn nuance about them. I've had to engage in dialectic of bouncing new ideas and new absolutes and old absolutes and finding, a synthesis in the middle that works for me. In my experience, that's been the process of finding faith, of finding religion, of finding truth, of finding politics and philosophy, and finding what works for me, what feels right, what fits. It's weird reading something that isn't challenging me, but I think. Right, normally when I read something that isn't challenging me, I'm just going, yeah, no shit, everybody knows this, or, yeah, okay, that's stupid, I'm not gonna do that, or, that's ridiculous. Normally more gentle terms than that, but I think you take my meaning. It's weird reading something that way, yep, this is about right, but not in an exciting way. Like with Buddhism or Taoism, where I'm like, hell yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Or reading like Marx or a lot of socialist writers and being like, fuck yeah. This is mostly just like, yeah. I don't know. I had not considered that one might stumble into finding a community or religion or faith or an ideology this way. Just in a falling into it kind of works sort of way. I'm not calling myself a Moist, just weird. Yeah. I can't help but wonder what it would be like if, when we raised our children, we exposed them to as many ideas, as many philosophies and schools of thought as possible. Ostensibly, this is what our public school system tries to do. I had a ton of courses on different religions in school, but they sucked. Like, they were all about, like, Jews have the Torah and Muslims have the Quran, and like not really getting into the substance and the core and the value and the beauty of it, just like really superficial, shallow bullshit that doesn't matter. Like, oh, Mecca is an important city. I don't know, it doesn't matter. Mecca isn't like the important thing about this. Or like Buddhists meditate. Like that's not the point. And maybe you have to be older and more experienced in just the exhaustion of life for these things to resonate with you more, but you know, what would it be like if, and of course I'm projecting my worldview and the way I process things, and I'm trying to grow. What if everyone was like that? And of course, I would be like, clearly that's the best way to go. Right now, I feel like, for the most part, people kind of just stick with what they're taught, or they rebel against that, find an antithesis or immediate, antithesis to this initial synthesis, and then just stick on that. They don't really. And again, this is a generalization, and maybe it reflects my exaggerated opinion of myself. It seems to me that most people do not engage in dialectic of what I was taught to believe, what this is teaching me to believe, what I now believe, right? And then repeating that with what I now believe, new thing teaching me what to believe, what I now believe, and just doing this process over and over and over, and just finding the middle way, right? I feel like most people don't do that. I would like people to do that, but wait, what if we had a fucking personality test, let's say. Children weren't indoctrinated, they weren't just bashed over the head with different schools of thought and philosophy like I like. What if you took a personality test, or over the first decade or two of your life, let's say 2 decades of your life, say first 20 years of your life, you were scored and rated first based on your expressed values, personality, actions, and then assigned a faith or school of philosophy that seemed to fit you. Kind of in a, I don't want to compare it to Harry Potter because J.K. Rowling's persona non grata right now, but but to that effect, that you just kind of get sorted into what naturally fits best for you. That'd be very interesting, and I feel like I might just be a Moist if that were to happen. And again, I'm not done yet, but it just, a lot of it seems fundamentally obvious. Ah, yeah. Alright, I'll stop. I could have put a cut in this 10 minutes ago and not lost out on anything, but I got these conceptual balls that I'm juggling. Torches of batons probably would have been a better word there, that I'm juggling and playing with and trying to tease apart here. And I'd really like to hear, of course I would, right? Me having just explained the way that I conceptualize things using dialectic, I'd love to hear thoughts about how you found your faith, or was shown your faith, or philosophy, or lenses, or beliefs about the world. It can be religious, it can be irreligious, it can be political, it can be philosophical, it can be economic. Personally, how do you feel you got where you are today? And structurally, what do you think it looks like, the formation of religious and political or philosophical identity? You know, I'm giving you a fucking essay here, but seriously, this is interesting stuff. I want 10-page minimum, double spaced. No, just get in the comments if you feel like sharing, and if you don't, I have had fun processing this. And I kinda hope Moism starts being weird, because if it's just gonna be a week of reading something that isn't really encouraging me to grow, I guess that'll be fine, but it's a bit of a letdown. Alright, I'll shut up now. Till whenever. Toodaloo.